Tonight on the Sunday show, Shannon Q is joined by Hannah Reloded. They'll take your calls on religion, theism, and spirituality. Don't you change that channel, because you're on the line.
Welcome to the line. I am super excited that you're here tonight. I am Shannon Q, and I'm going to fangirl the entire time, the whole time. I'm going to make it really uncomfortable for everybody because Hannah's here. Did you guys see? Did you guys see that Hannah's here? I'm a little bit excited. I'm making her uncomfortable now, but that's okay because I can't help it. Hannah, hi! I'm so excited.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so excited. But before I let you even tell everybody who you are and where they can find you, I just want to say that Bible Reloaded was like my gateway into finding that there even was a YouTube atheist. I know you probably hear it all the time. God. I don't care. Just let me do it. Just let me do it. Just let me get it over with. I know we've talked before. You've been on other podcasts I have, but I'm doing it again. You're amazing, and I love it. I love how you inject humor with your really insightful perspectives. You have such a unique way about you, and I just love watching you work, and I'm so excited to be here working with you today. So, Hannah, why don't you tell everybody who you are and where they can find you?
Oh, thank you. I'm Hannah. I have a couple channels that I'm on. If you're looking for the Bible Reloaded, which is the show that kind of started my my career here on the internet, where Jake and I, who's also been on the line before, basically do an atheist reading of the Bible and talk about it, bring a little bit of a comedic edge to it, but also talk about sort of the inconsistencies and the interesting stuff that happens to be in the Bible. From a non-religious perspective, we do other stuff on there too, reviews of religious movies and stuff. Lately, I've been doing a lot of streaming, and I do that on Twitch, twitch.tv/Hannah Reloaded. On there, I cover all sorts of topics, including I've been going through slowly Kent Hovind's doctoral thesis, which I say with the most air quotes. It's quite bad. The first line is, "Hello, my name is Kent Hovind," which typically wouldn't fly in a middle school paper, much less a doctoral thesis. But, you know, it is what it is. We do other fun stuff over there, too.
Doesn't improve from there.
You can find a lot of that at also youtube.com/Hannah Reloaded. So those are my plugs.
Yeah, and links are in the description. Go support Hannah. Hannah is great. If you like what we do here, you will love her. She's amazing. She's better than me, which is why I'll probably talk less this time. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe. I can't make any promises. I do like talking. So, Hannah, I'm super excited that you're here today, and I imagine we're probably going to get quite a few calls. We've already got some in the queue. Are you ready to get started?
I am the most ready.
The most ready. All right, let's do it. Let's party. We're going to take call number 1. We're going to talk to Katie. Hi, Katie. You are on the line. What would you like to talk with us about today?
Hello, Shannon. Matt actually told me to ask you this.
Oh, okay.
And hi, Hannah. I told you
Hello.
I'd call.
Oh yeah, you were in the stream earlier.
So, I have a therapy assignment to figure out. It's in my book to figure out a higher power. The issue, obviously, being I'm an atheist and.
Wait.
A bit of a skeptic, so it's kind of like a bit of a conundrum.
Okay, what kind of therapy project? Is this something that like your personal therapist assigned to you as a project as part of your personal therapy, or is this part of a course?
It's part of a DBT workbook.
What's a DBT workbook? Like behavioral therapy?
Yeah, dialectical behavioral therapy.
Okay. So is this a workbook that you're going through as your own personal therapy?
No, I'm working through it with my therapist. It's a part of, like, we're going to go through this, and then we're going to do either CET or PET or something like that.
Okay. So your therapist assigned you a project where you need to define what a higher power is?
Yeah,
Is your therapist aware that you're an atheist?
very much so, and she was very confused as to why being an atheist was important to me especially whenever I mentioned the community.
Are you
That's
taking very
tough.
many Go ahead, Hannah.
I was just going to say, I've been in a similar situation years ago. This is when I was still a minor. I was like 17 or something, maybe 16. I'm not exactly positive. But this is around the time I was really, really struggling with like losing my faith. And I was having a lot of like existential issues in regard to that. And I was feeling depressed and also general teenage stuff, not to mention I'm trans and I was in the closet at the time, which I'm sure wasn't helping. It was a whole mess of issues. And then my mom picked a therapist for me who happened to be not just religious, but the therapy was branded as Christian therapy. So sometimes the perspective that the therapist would have was pretty antithetical to the feelings I was having. In the end, for me, it ended up being beneficial to seek other therapeutic help because that person's perspective wasn't meshing with mine. I'm not necessarily saying that's what you should do in this situation, but just talking about this specific assignment, it might help define to the therapist what that might mean to you non-religiously. So if we're talking about like higher powers as a non-religious person, it's a little hard. You should be specific in talking about like, this isn't meaning that this is some supreme force, but there are things that are more important than oneself. Like talking about like community and society. Those things are sort of higher powers in the sense that they matter and that they're things you hold in high esteem and that they can be guiding in certain ways, but it's just not the same as a deity. At least that's the avenue I would go with it. I don't know, though. That's kind of tough.
That's
That's definitely better than where my brain went, because my brain went, okay, who's an authority figure? And I'm like, no thanks, I am not putting the police as my higher power.
Right. And we also shouldn't venerate any individual to that level because there's a degree of fallibility, right? So the idea of venerating anybody to that level is I don't think necessarily healthy either, which is something that I would bring up with your therapist. Why do I need to venerate somebody, something, some being external to myself in order to understand myself better? How do those two mesh with one another? Why do I need to look external to myself, to somebody who is independent of me, in order to be the best version of myself? Something along those lines is something that I would approach them with, because any therapists who, I'm going to couch this because it's something that I'm passionate about. Therapists and counselors and psychiatrists can very, very, very much be religious themselves and still do a fantastic job of being a counselor, a therapist, a psychiatrist, psychologist. When you start to incorporate belief systems into the therapeutic environment and present them as a necessity for mental health, that is a serious issue, because it's not a necessity for mental health. And if it's proposed as though it is, you'll create a reliability paradigm where if you ever have a crisis of faith, that crisis becomes something that's introspectively a crisis as well, something that is attached to your sense of being or sense of self, as opposed to your sense of being and sense of self being grounded in something reasonable, rational, and reliable, and something that you can think through. Like your sense of self should be grounded in your introspective perception of yourself, not your perceived value to some other external model of a deity or whatever that might be. It's not a valuable construct to introduce into a therapeutic environment independently, specifically if that person's an atheist. My concern ethically here right now is that you've spoken to somebody who's in a counseling position about what your belief structure is, and they're attempting to use the therapeutic environment to augment your belief structure, and that's not something that I can ethically stand behind. So I wouldn't even complete the assignment. I would ask her some serious questions about why she perceives this assignment as being valuable to you, and push back stating that you don't want belief systems in higher powers being incorporated into your therapeutic environment, because it is not her place to help guide you towards what your theistic beliefs are or are not, and that is not why you're there.
Yeah, like I had that issue with AA and NA because they would do the whole, well, your higher power could be a rock or a doorknob for all we care. And it's like, I know you're just mocking the idea to try to get me into your church.
It's not even that they're mocking the idea in those situations. What they're doing there is introducing the conceptualization of a higher power or something external to yourself being an important locus of behavioral control. And so when you are attempting to augment behavior, and you're referencing that. So if they give you this behavioral model that you're referencing this external locus of control in order to adhere to a certain behavioral path, like an accountability metric or matrix, I think is what they usually would call it, then they can introduce that to you through any means necessary. And you could, so it could be a doorknob, it could be whatever, but they're getting you to introduce that as a component of your thought process when it comes to accountability matrices. And it's not a healthy accountability matrix, because how are you being held accountable to a doorknob unless you're creating an external system of accountability to assign to that doorknob, for example, and then hold yourself to? And if you're creating a system of accountability essentially independently in that scenario, then you don't require the external being or the external thing or the tangible object in order to create that system of accountability. You can create a system of accountability independent of that.
That makes sense.
I hope that helps. I know Matt told you to call me, and he probably anticipated I would do something like that because he knows how ardently I feel about theistic abuse in the therapeutic environment and introductions of indoctrinations as a form of therapy. So I just don't like it. It makes me feel yuck. And it seems like it's causing you a form of dissonance, which is one of the reasons that I don't like it, because it's not necessary for you. You recognize that, and you're struggling with it because it's not necessarily helping you. It's just causing you further struggle. And it's related to your treatment.
It just reminds me of, like, because when I was transitioning, I didn't know atheism was a thing. So I went into, like, I tried every religion I could find wholeheartedly, thinking I was flawed in everything. So it's just bringing up those emotions. It's like, okay, I got to work through this logically because I'm trying to figure out how do I answer this.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fair. I hope that some of what Hannah and I offered is helpful to you, but ultimately the journey is your own. I don't think it would necessarily be a deal breaker in a therapeutic environment. That your therapist just may not be used to dealing with atheists, and this may be something that's been incorporated in the past with some metric of success because she or they have been dealing with theists in the past, and it's something that seems organic to them, so there'd been no pushback. But it might be worth bringing up that you don't feel as though it's the appropriate environment to engage in conversations about belief systems, and that's not why you're there, and you'd like to pursue a different path. I don't know, Hannah, do you disagree?
No, I agree. I think I'm hoping your interpretation is correct. It's just that I've been in a situation where I had a therapist who was pretty intentionally proselytizing to myself. So I'm hoping that's not the case here. Like, even though and it was maddening too, because they were like, "Oh, I'm not doing that," but then they would go on to clearly do that. So I hope it's a miscommunication and they're just not used to dealing with, non-religious individuals.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, I
And
hope we
if
give
you're
you
right, I'll give you 100 biddies.
Sounds good.
That's a fair deal. All right, Katie, thank you so much for calling. I hope some of that was valuable to you and I really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank
See you later.
you so much.
You're welcome. Bye, Katie.
Talk to you later.
Oh, that makes me so mad. And like I've done an entire series on my channel on Christian counseling. It's something that just
Yeah.
infuriates me. Absolutely, utterly. The idea that somebody can turn to you for help and you can utilize religious indoctrination and these manipulation tactics to attempt to get somebody to a belief system and then conflate that with being better,
Right,
because
it's
you're
frustrating.
assigning any. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because it's vulnerable people who are seeking out help in some way, and to use that space that's supposed to be a place of helping, construct some better version of yourself, and to try and use that as some underhanded way to push some belief system, almost regardless of what it is. It's so messed up.
Yeah, I mean, samesies. I have nothing to add to that. It's like half my life's work is just calling those people out. All right, you ready? Do you want to take call number 2?
Sure.
We will talk to Jacob. Hi, Jacob. You're on the line. What would you like to discuss with Hannah and I today?
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of run something by you about confirmation bias and how I've noticed that in this political climate we're currently in, which is an ugly one, that it doesn't seem to matter. Yeah, it doesn't seem to matter the facts of the matter. It just seems to matter confirmation bias. Look, everybody has confirmation bias. I know that. However, my point is that I'm not a huge political guy, but I can recognize the truth of the matter. When I hear people say all these things that are not true about Trump or Biden even, but particularly Trump, they typically come from atheists, and not always, but most atheists I've heard of or talked to or known are liberals. And it's just interesting to me that they seem to be so illogical when it comes to politics. I wonder how in the world you should expect anyone to trust an analysis of religion when your analysis of politics is just so blaringly wrong.
Can you give me an example of something that you think atheists or people on the left, can you give me an example of something you think is being said about Trump that you think is untrue? Just for example.
I mean, what is the actual proof? Yeah, sure. No, that's fair, because I don't like broad generalizations, but it had to start there to get it. But anyway, so more specific, do you, either of you, think that Trump is a racist?
I think he is, yes.
Okay. Can you tell me why? A genuine question. I'm not,
Okay, great. I'm glad you have a genuine question. Here's a genuine answer. Okay, remember when he came down that escalator and he paid a bunch of people to come and clap when he announced his presidency? And he, this is the first day of his campaign in 2016. And he was like, by the way, no, someone's laughing in the other room. It's distracting. And he said, they're sending us rapists and murderers. I'm sure some of them are good people. Do you understand how the implication of that sentence is that the majority of undocumented immigrants from Mexico are indeed somehow immoral, murderers, sexual assailants? The implication of the sentence is... Okay.
Yeah. The context, though, of the sentence was about MS-13. So that's the part where, you know what I mean? It's just not...
But that wouldn't make sense in that context, because then he's saying some members of this gang that have murdered people are very good people. So you're either saying...
He has a terrible time of like staying on one topic in a sentence. So I'll give you that. Like, the dude is not perfect for sure. So when he was making that comment, he was originally talking about MS-13 with the rapists and the murderers and that stuff. And then he said some of the people like coming across the border are nice people. So he has a terrible
wait,
time
one sec.
Like,
one sec, because I've no.
Sure.
Like, one sec.
Sure.
So the statement that Hannah just said right? Like that, and we both admit that he said it. If he was a racist, how would it sound different than that?
If he was a racist, how would it
If he
sound
was a
different? If he
racist,
wasn't
because you're
trying to
saying
hide
he's
it, he
probably
would just
not a
come
racist.
right out.
If he was a
Yeah.
racist, how would he have said that statement differently?
I mean, if he wasn't trying to hide it, then he would just come right out and say it. All Mexicans are rapists.
Right.
And
so he's a
and I don't like them,
politician.
and they should
So
stay out of
obviously
here.
he's incentivized to attempt to hide
Yeah.
it. So studying communication, you would like, well, I mean, I don't necessarily know that you have, but if you're attempting to convey a message to people, like this is why the concepts of dog whistles exist, right? If you're attempting to convey a message to people that you kind of stand with them in a belief system, you'll use that sort of double talk so that you can convey that message and still have an out. Whereas, and you'll do something like that
That's fair.
consistently. You'll consistently make those sorts of statements while still having the, same with the Charlottesville, right? Like when it happened in Charlottesville, some of them are very good people, right?
Yeah.
Like
He meant some of the people there, though. Do you use the same standard when it comes to Biden? Are you a Biden supporter, either of you guys?
I am Canadian, so I'm going to cede the ground to Hannah because she knows better.
Well, you can be a supporter or not. Yeah, I got you. No, that's fair. But I just mean, like, you can agree with one or the other still. It's still your world.
I wouldn't vote for Trump if I was American. No.
I am voting for Biden.
Right.
He's not my first choice, but yes, I'm voting for Biden because he's better than Trump. But also, the quote, by the way, verbatim is, when Mexico sends its people, they're not... Let me try and do... When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending the best. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're bringing rapists. And some, I assume, are good people. That's the quote, for the record.
Yeah. So, when it comes to that, that was the time period where MS-13 was like the hot button issue of all the media.
But
so that's what I mean when I said in
doesn't
context,
say.
it was about that.
It's clearly a statement about general
No, it doesn't.
Mexican immigration. No. Okay, beyond that.
So do you use the same standard for Biden, though? Do you remember when he said back in the, I don't know, what was it, 90s or something like that? And he was quoted saying, "I don't want my kids growing up in a jungle." And he was talking about the integration of schools.
In the 90s? Did you just say he was talking about the integration?
No, not in the 90s. I'm wrong about that. No, I'm wrong about the year.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I know that. As soon as I said it, I was like,
30-year
I'm wrong about the year. But yeah,
Okay.
don't worry. I make mistakes. But no, when it comes to that, he was quoted saying that. You know what I mean? It was on audio and video and just a quote of it. So what about that? Does that make him a racist?
If he said that in that context, then it would be racist. Yeah,
it would be. And Biden has said very stupid things. He said, he also said, I'll give you an example too. Remember that time he had the gaffe, where he said, oh God, what did he say? It was some qualifier, and he said, white kids and poor kids, dog whistling.
Ooh.
That,
He said,
yeah, remember that?
Yeah, he did. He said, white kids or poor kids can be just as bright as white kids.
Oh,
there we go. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So,
Biden said
I'm
some
just
really
saying
dumb stuff.
it seems interesting that, atheists typically left-leaning, not all of them, but, and then they're so willing to just go with this guy because he says things that they like and that, agree with their policies. What has Trump actually done to the LGBTQ community, to the black community,
dear God,
to harm them?
As
dear
a trans
God.
individual, let me talk about this too. First of all, let me say, just backing up for a sec before we address that, I'm voting for Biden, not because I love Biden, because I think Trump is very, very destructive, not only in the fact that I think he does spread a really hateful message. And yeah, Biden's probably racist because he's an old person and a lot of old people are racist, but he doesn't constantly couch his rhetoric in that racism the same way Trump does. In terms of the LGBT community, I'm not even a big military person, but like he outright banned trans people from the military, which is a pretty messed up thing to do. Like, I don't want to be in the military.
I mean, is it though?
But there
Because
were
when it comes
tons
to
of trans
policies
people
about
who were.
military, we're talking about money.
he
I'm
repealed
sorry, I didn't mean to
health
cut you
care
off.
coverage for
is
trans
it really
medical
a messed
care.
up thing to do?
Yeah, he basically
I'm sorry,
pulled
go
it
ahead.
so you can.
He
He made
yoinked
it
it right
so-
out of the healthcare budget.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, both of you guys were talking. I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, you go ahead, Shannon.
I'm sorry. I'm just like, he literally just yoinked trans health coverage out of just said, oh, we don't need that in healthcare coverage, and just went yoink and pulled it right out. Just, no thank you. You guys don't get that anymore.
Funded healthcare coverage? Yeah, out of government-funded healthcare coverage. I mean, that's the thing about that. You know, he's making financial decisions that impact the entire nation.
Oh, dear sweet Jesus.
Why should I, if I don't support it, have to be paying for it in my taxes? So that goes.
That's how insurance works.
It might not be.
Everyone pays into a pot, and then when people need health care, they have their.
Why should I, if I don't support it, have to pay for somebody to get cancer treatment when they were like? Why? If I don't support it. Why should I have to pay for cancer treatment?
Which is why I'm a bigger advocate for privatized healthcare. Government healthcare is garbage for all of those.
No, it's not. Dude, I'm Canadian. Seriously? Oh my God.
Yeah, and don't even go there because Steven Crowder and others have already debunked the great Canadian healthcare system.
Steven Crowder?
It doesn't work.
You're kidding, right? Are you
if you
trolling
find
us?
yourself citing Steven Crowder, please take a step back and reconsider literally everything about what you've.
You're not real.
Well, I don't understand.
You're not real.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. You said that to
Steven Crowder.
Already, Shannon. That's funny.
Steven Crowder. Dude, you're not real. You can't.
You can say. Hold on. Saying his name. Wait. Let me just say this.
No, saying his name is an expert.
Saying someone's name and laughing is not an argument. Saying someone's name and laughing is not an argument.
Do Ben Shapiro next. Quote Ben Shapiro. Do it.
That's not like you just, like I said, I'm Canadian. We have a great healthcare system. You said, Steven Crowder,
saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe you believe in this. That's not an argument.
No, it's not. But you didn't make one to begin with.
You're kind of only proving my point. We can't have a logical conversation if someone's
just you haven't introduced a logical argument.
You quoted that guy.
No, but you quoted him, but you didn't actually give an argument. You just said Steven Crowder debunked Canadian healthcare, but provided nothing except for the name Steven Crowder.
And others.
Who debunked?
You know what the average wait time is in a Canadian emergency room, Shannon? You know what the average
Yes, I have been in a Canadian emergency room. Absolutely. I had a son who scored a 5 on his APCAR and had to go to the NICU immediately. Immediately had to go to the NICU. I've had a miscarriage. I have multiple sclerosis. My son just had to have an emergency dental surgery also. He also had vasouretal reflux, so he had to have which meant that he was born without bladder valves. He had to go on iron treatments and daily antibiotics for his entire life until he was 2 years old. We were in and out of the hospitals constantly. He had the best care. He had blood drawn weekly and then monthly. And then on top of that was like put into multiple different types of scans and tests in order to be able to diagnose, treat, and maintain his vasouretal reflux until it got to the point that we could get rid of it. Then he had to have his adenoids out almost immediately after because he had some form of sleep apnea. I have multiple sclerosis and asthma, and you know how much, and I'm allergic to bees. I carry around an EpiPen everywhere I go, and do you know how much medical debt I have? $0.00 is how much medical debt I have.
Okay,
I also have a neurologist. No, I am not done explaining why you've not experienced our healthcare system. I live in our healthcare system. I have a boyfriend who suffered a rare form of cancer. He got immediate treatment and is in remission. Expert care. He got chemo. It was free. He is done. His cancer is gone. He had multiple plastic surgeries over the course of several years in order to reconstruct his hand as a result of the cancer being removed and going through chemotherapy. I don't care what the fuck Steven Crowder says. You don't live in the Canadian healthcare system. We're doing just fine. And if I start to get emotional about it, I can just pick up my phone, go on my Maple app, and talk to a therapist about it for free, because that's covered too. So don't tell me that you know more about the Canadian healthcare system than I do, Merkin.
You're talking about anecdotal evidence. If I was to do that about anything,
oh my God, you're not real. I'm hanging up on you. This isn't even real. That's not even real. Like, it just infuriates me when people do stuff like that. Well, I just want to tell you all of these talking points, but you don't have any evidence. That's all anecdotal. What did he offer that was actual evidence? Steven Crowder said, Sorry, Hannah. Hi, how you doing? I'm usually much more calm than this. That really pissed me off. Because I don't think he's being honest. That's a troll.
I don't know if that individual is still listening, but have they considered that facts don't care about their feelings? I don't care what Steven Crowder said. This is so stupid.
On my tea.
Just to add on to that, I just want to point out, like, okay, so I'm, transitioning, and there's a lot of medical stuff that goes along with that. My insurance costs me $300 a month, and then in order to get my blood work done for my transition stuff, I'm on hormones, I have to drive 2.5 hours away, which is the closest hospital that will take my insurance and do this stuff, and then drive there, and then it still costs like $150 per appointment.
So different hospitals take different insurance? Like you can't just walk in with your... So we have something here called an MSI card in Nova Scotia, and that is your government insurance, and you can just walk into any healthcare provider with your MSI card. And if you have additional insurance coverage, the hospital will take that additional private insurance, because we also have private insurance here to cover additional stuff. So I have it, but I can go to whatever. You have to go to a specific.
Yeah, I have a whole, like, I on my healthcare insurance website that I go to, where I have, my insurance through. Basically, there's an entire big section where it's like, search for a doctor that accepts your insurance, and you gotta like search. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks a lot.
Oh man, you must be like as mad as I just was about that, because I'm so sick of Americans who are fighting to not have socialized medicine always crap all over the Canadian medical system as though we're all just wandering around dying and none of us have doctors. Like, we're fine. But so it makes me mad. But as mad as it makes me, hearing me just rant off about all of that stuff, it must make you mad, because you know that that's a thing that's possible.
Yes,
and
it's very, very frustrating.
It's not currently available, and it could be. So I'm really sorry. Now I feel bad about my rant, because it fucking makes me so mad.
That was good.
God. Well, I don't do it often, but when I do it, I sure do it. All right, we're going to talk to Mike next. Hi, Mike. Hi. You're on the line. I'm calm now. Sorry. I know you probably heard all that. How you doing?
Oh, no. You know what? No, I'm a big fan of Angry Shannon. I am.
He doesn't have to hear often,
I think that was entirely merited. Your patience is to be astonished at. Please, don't sell yourself short, by all means, Shannon. Really psyched to talk to you both. I am a recently flowering anti-theist for my part.
Oh, okay.
So if I could maybe mix up the rhythm of the show a little bit.
It's probably a good idea.
Just dive into this facet of life.
Sure.
My question, I guess, is I am becoming more and more virulent in my belief in science and my anti-theism as I see it playing out in the political realm, particularly in the U.S. When it starts to affect things like healthcare, then it's time to go to war with science, I believe. And I think everybody being scientifically literate would be to everyone's benefit. And I don't seek to alienate theists, I seek to make them question their own beliefs. And as a result of not having any social support for this and being in my own process of religious recovery, I have ultimately started my own Boston Atheist group. Anti-theist Rational Skeptic group on Facebook.
Okay.
Because it does not exist in this part of the country. And that bums me out really heavily.
So have you spent a lot of time like roaming around online on places like, well, Twitter's not always the best place to go.
I have. I am currently jobless, and I'm a stoner musician, parenthetically. So, that's, if I'm not playing music, I'm goofing around on the tube and watching you folks and Dillahunty and Atheist Experience. And I was actually on Talk Heathen earlier, much to my nervousness and eventual delight. I was
Eric and V are
to them
great
for a long time. Pardon me?
I said Eric and V are great. They're good people to talk to. Yeah.
It was. Eric was not even in today. It was a Dr. Warren someone, I believe.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
who is lovable entirely for his own reasons. It was great to see a bona fide scientist in the seats.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of I'm wondering how to make my increasingly unpalatable ideas more palatable,
Okay.
I guess, and sort of
So your question is how to kind of communicate with
rather
people?
than vinegar. I'm sorry?
So your question is kind of how to communicate with people, create communities, and build bridges to have conversations with theists.
I want to be a humanist first and an anti-theist second.
Great, cool. All right, Hannah, do you want to have a go, and then I'll give it a try after?
Oh boy, I'm bad at this because the first thing I ended up doing was made a snarky YouTube channel about it. But,
Who has it?
I'm sorry. I feel your pain.
Yeah. Basically, in terms of focusing on the humanist stuff, I think that's a good avenue to go down. I think that's a good way to get people open to those ideas, because, of course, if you go up to people or communicate the idea that just like, hey, I think your religion is destructive, or I think that your religious thinking is leading to the harm of other people, it's going to close people off, even if what you're saying may be true about certain people. So I think it's for sure. So taking it from that perspective of, I just want to make sure that people's rights are protected. I want to make sure that people have the things they need to live and thrive. That's a good avenue to go down, because if you go positive with it, people might have their own reservations due to religion, but at the very least it would probably open them up to realizing, okay, well, this thing is positive, so if my religion is telling me this is bad, what does that mean? I think that's more effective than outright,
Right, that's precisely so. I don't mean to. I'm not in it to debate people. Well, okay, I am.
We all are to a certain degree.
Some of me enjoys a healthy debate. I admit I'm argumentative as a weakness, but I like, all the more reason that I like to cite my sources and say, well, this study and this many scientists and the National Association of Ethical Ecologists, or what have you, I can cite that rather than say, well, I watched Alex Jones and he said that.
Right.
I don't want to reduce my arguments to memes.
Right. Well, it doesn't sound like you really want to have arguments as much as you want to have dialogues, at least in the type of engagements that you referenced in the call. And I think Hannah's perspective there is actually a really good idea, because if you can find something that both of you agree on and figure out how you both come to the determination that you agree on it, something like human rights, for example, and then there's common ground there, and you can build from that. Once you establish that the things that you find important are the same things that somebody else finds important, then you can build upon that. And if you can figure out why you maybe have some difference in perceiving things and understanding them as important, that's worth talking about as well. I'm huge on actions aligning with intentions. So if you want to debate, if you want to argue, I mean, sure, there's space for that. There's definitely people who will want to engage you in that. And arguably there is some value in it, because there are people who will be kind of shaken out of their shell by the shock of an abrupt conversation.
I was shocked.
Right?
I mean, I sort of feel as though a genuine awakening to the state of things is bound to be a shock, and is meant to be a shock, and should be a life-altering shock.
Everybody's deconversion is a different story, though. Some people don't have that sort of shocked experience. Some people, it's a gradient, right? Like for me, I would say it was a gradient.
Absolutely.
More so than a, oh shit. There was more like a, oh, this is dumb. Oh, this is also dumb. Oh, yeah, I don't believe that. Oh, I don't need this one anymore, until I eventually peeled it all away and realized I don't have any of it left. I just think I do. And
for my
maybe
part,
it's time to admit that I don't.
I believe it was a couple callers ago, but I must respectfully disagree, Shannon, with your take on AA. They have been explicitly Catholic in their attempts to convert me. I have gone to dozens of AA meetings in my time, and
what did you think my take on AA was? Because I don't support AA.
Pardon me?
What did you think? I'm curious now if I maybe miscommunicated, because I don't actually like AA.
No, I believe it's a fraud. It was court-ordered. I was living at a homeless shelter. So I was forced. It was part of the condition of me staying in the shelter was that I go to 6 AA meetings a week, and I had leaders of AA meetings tell me literally that the only way I could be forgiven was to confess to a Catholic priest because he was the only one who actually held the power of absolvments. And I am a recovering Catholic. I was an altar boy. I went to parochial school. I went to Sunday school. My mom, to this day, is devout. My sister still believes in God, and I've had to find common ground with them during all this. And that has had shocks and stresses. But it's ultimately been a really, really enlightening and life-affirming experience, in the likes of which I'm at a loss for words.
Well, I'm glad that you've had a good journey. It sounds like you've had a lot of life experience, and I hope that maybe really some of this conversation
one epiphany after another.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to have life. Life should be one epiphany after the other. If you think you get it figured out, you're absolutely wrong.
I guess.
Definitely wrong.
I guess.
One thing you can be sure about. I really appreciate you calling, and I hope that you found something valuable in the conversation. And thank you so much. Have a good rest of your weekend, Mike.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. All right, Hannah, I'm going to let you pick. You want a theist or an atheist?
Ooh. I'm going to say theist. Do I just hit talk?
Yep, hit talk.
Or do you hit that?
Are you going to talk to Allison?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey.
Hi, Allison. You're on the line. What would you like to talk about?
Shannon! Hi! How are you?
I'm good, Allison. How are you? Welcome to the line. What would you like to... Great.
Hi, Hannah. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome. So I called because I've been watching a lot of movies lately, and I just watched Dogma the other day. Are either of you familiar with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Kevin Smith movie. Alan Rickman's like an angel. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Chris Rock is in it, and Selma Hayek, and Alanis Morissette plays God. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so I was just like, wondering what you guys think is like, are they actually trying to push religion, or are they trying to get a different perspective on religion? Or
I don't think Kevin Smith is trying to push religion. Dogma's like definitely satire of religious dogma. Yeah, it's in the name. I don't know.
The angels are literally ripping people in half.
Yeah. I don't know if Kevin Smith is religious or not, but he certainly seems to want to poke fun at, organized religion at the very least in that movie.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Sorry, Allison, go ahead.
Sorry, Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're good.
No, it's okay.
Oh, you can go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, and then I'll expound upon it.
Oh, okay. I agree. Like, it's really trying to just push the reality of what religion looks like to people, and to atheists. And it's like, hey, you know what? This is the message that you're pushing, and
you know what? I saw it a little bit differently. I saw it more so as if you take Christianity to its potential logical conclusion in real time now, Like, if these types of things were happening now, this is what it might look like. Because they tried to be fairly scripturally accurate. Like, when they were talking about the descendants of Jesus, they were talking about his brothers and sisters having descendants, like not descendants of Jesus, because they knew, like, if you look into the Bible, and there was James, the brother of Jesus, and potentially Jesus had other siblings via Mary and Joseph, that they were seeing them as potentially passing down his bloodline through history, and the angel doing everything they could to get back to God, and ultimately that ending in one of the angels being exceptionally violent, literally ripping humans in half and just dropping them from the sky, and then God not even walking up to them with a smile on her face and holding his head and him looking like he understands something that isn't articulated, and then his head just explodes and he's ended. It's like, it was this sort of analog for all of the confusion that flows from it. And if you played it out in real time, attempting to make sense of it, ultimately it would be something troubling and confusing that couldn't be explained. I see movies different though, because I'm a weirdo.
Totally. That's really, really interesting. I love it. Love it.
Oh, I'm glad. Do you have any other questions for us about, movies, religion, your take on it?
Like, I also wanted to talk about, like, the other side of things where they take religion and put it in a horror movie. Like, the one I'm thinking of is Silent Hill.
Oh, I've not seen it.
Have you seen Silent Hill at all?
I hate horror movies with every fiber of my being.
More generally, are you talking about how certain, like, I don't know, another example might be like The Exorcist, how certain horror films have elements of religious mythology in them as plot points?
Kind of, yeah. Like, in Silent Hill, it's about this religious group who are essentially witch hunters, and it's pretty much two sisters, and one has a child out of wedlock, and then unfortunately the child is molested by this guy, but because the child was born out of wedlock and she had sex before marriage, even though she was assaulted, she was looked at as sin. And according to this religious sect that her mom's sister, like her aunt, was involved in. And so the religious sect looked at her like looked at the little girl like she was a witch, and they were like, burn the witch, burn the witch. And so it's pretty much about witch hunting. And so so they took that part of it and then made it where there was an evil force who takes many forms, who helps the little girl put her evil and wrath and revenge onto everybody who was involved. And the whole town gets set on fire, and then the people who were involved in hurting her go to a different dimension.
What?
And so it's like,
I didn't see that coming. Didn't see it.
Yeah, it's really crazy, but it's like so yeah.
Well, where do you?
So there's aspects.
Are you curious?
So there's things in the movie that provoke religion. Like, there's Bible verses in it, and there's other
I don't
things
think
like that where
it doesn't strike me that just including religious elements in your movie, especially the way you described it, I don't think that it necessitates promoting religion. Like, from what you just described, it sounds like it's showing a very dark, destructive version of religion. Like, you could have movies that include religion in them without it being a promotion of said religion. In fact, what it sounds like, I haven't seen the movie, but from the way you described it, it sounds like it's showing, like, look at this crazy, like, really dark stuff that happens in regard to this, like, version of this religious faith. I don't know.
Are you worried, Allison,
Well,
that you
like,
think
how
that that's
many-
how it's that theists are being misrepresented theatrically? And, like, that affects how
Not
people think about theists? Or?
necessarily. Not necessarily. It's just, like, I mean, how many times have you heard about children being mistreated in religion?
Too many.
Because
And 99% of them
yeah.
are true.
And yeah, it is. So I think that's more of the message that that movie is trying to portray.
Do you think that
Like,
that's an incorrect message?
It's not completely religious. It's just like when I first, like, before I started looking into really looking into religion, I never caught that aspect of it before, where it was like the bad guys are a religious sect who you know, do witch hunting and burning witches. But I couldn't help but notice the similarity since I've started gaining more knowledge in religion and how people are treated and how people are shunned. And, you know, it's how sex before marriage is an absolute sin and you can get ostracized for that, or you're ostracized for whatever, right? So, like,
So these are just things that didn't enter into your consciousness before? Really? So you must have had a fairly, like, kind of milquetoast version of religion, potentially. Like, not too into the tenets of the actual book the religion's based on.
Yeah, like, I never grew up with religion. I went to church with my friends, and, like, Bible thumpers and religious nuts were kind of words were tossed around amongst my family. Like, we're not religious at all. So I only started learning about all of this stuff when I started watching, like, you and Jimmy Snow and, you know, the Atheist Experience and Matt Dillahunty and Seth Andrews and all the peeps that I, you know.
All the peeps. Now watch Hannah. You'll like Hannah's channels.
Yeah.
Hannah was my gateway.
So,
You'll like it. I promise.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when it comes to religious in a whole, I'm pretty clueless, you know, and it's just like, well, is there a God out there? Maybe. I don't know. Like, that's as
Keep searching.
theist as I get, you know?
Keep searching. Keep trying to figure it out. It's one of the most important questions to know the answer to, I think, based on the perspective that you're starting from. But what's important is trying to figure out how you come to determinations of what is true. So keep trying to do that and asking these questions and elaborating on things and looking deeply at how things are perceived and what that means and how it relates to the world and the type of person that you want to be and how that could or couldn't relate to a potential religion. Look into, like, all of those things are good to look into. I'm glad that you're on that journey. It's a valuable journey to take.
Another thing that I want to bring up just real quick, it's going to be really fast. The whole thing of where in Silent Hill she says, one of the main characters, they say, "Mother is God in the eyes of a child." And I'm wondering what you both think about that.
Well, That is very much open to interpretation. So Hannah and I and you could each give a completely different answer that's equally as valid, I think, because it's so vague. But they could be getting towards something like a God is who created you, and they could see mother as who created you because you came out of mother, and who provides for you. And theoretically, you know, if you get a decent one, the mother and father the parents should provide for the child. So they may be seeing it from that perspective. But I mean, like, thought is just me saying stuff out of my mouth. Like, they could have meant something completely different when they wrote it. What do you think, Hannah?
I would assume it's a commentary on how when you're a kid and your parents are, you know, the authority over you in your life, you see them as basically, when you're young enough at least, like very perfect, ideal beings that must know everything because they seem to know so much compared to you. So I can see how that, and sometimes it's been said that, like, people's view of their religious deity can be informed by how they view their parents or similar authority figures. I understand what they're trying to say in the movie, I think. I haven't seen the movie, though, so I'm not sure.
I know, now I'm on the fence. I'm like, that sounds insane. Like, it ends in people going into a different dimension. and then some sort of demon helps the kid get revenge on all these assholes. I usually don't watch horror movies, but you might have just fucking sold me on whatever that one was. I'm gonna have to silent now. That's the best pitch I've ever heard for a horror movie, Allison.
Like, it is based on a video game series.
Tell us your story.
And like, the whole religious thing is more present in the movie than the games, for sure. But,
okay.
But yeah, it kind of ties into with like a whole concept of an afterlife too.
Mm-hmm.
And
you should play Far Cry 5 sometime.
That's something that I'm really on the fence about, is an afterlife existing. Like, I just really, really want an afterlife to exist because my mom passed away when I was 16, and I'm 39 now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things that has kept me going during the really, really dark times is the thought that, you know, if I, say, don't die of natural causes like my mom did, I won't go to the same place of afterlife that she did, aka heaven. And like, that's just something that had kept me going. So now I'm facing the whole thing about an afterlife not existing, so then that means that I won't ever get to see my mom again or interact with her, and so it's like almost like a whole new form of grief, because it's like it's like almost like a loss that, like, I'll never see her again.
Because you previously would have thought that there was going to be the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really sorry that you're going through that.
Thanks.
I really legitimately
really hard because
it's one of to me, the ideas of an afterlife is one of the, you know, the top selling point, like where religion can get you, because it's that hope for something that no one else can promise you. No one else can say, you know, you're going to get to see your loved ones again. You're going to get to continue to exist after this. But somehow, some way, religions seem to have that promise, and it compels and convinces people to buy in, because that's the one thing that if you could have, you would, right? So people will find a way to reconcile whatever they need to mentally to hold that belief, because that belief is tantamount to a hope that they can't get elsewhere. So when you come to the reconciliation that maybe I got sold a bill of goods here, you're also grieving the loss of, to a certain degree, that hope that you were sold. And that's a position you didn't put yourself in. Somebody else put you in that position, or a system put you in that position. And I'm really, really, really sorry. It's not something that's easy to come to terms with, but it is something that I promise you can come to terms with. You know, you often hear people say, what was it like before you were born? That's what I think it's probably going to be like when I'm gone. Pretty much identical to what it was like before I was born. So, and that helps me sort of reconcile myself with that, because if it's anything like what it was like before I was born, I won't be much bothered because I didn't much care at that point, because I didn't exist. I know that's hard to relinquish. It's incredibly difficult to relinquish that as a concept, the cessation of existence, because it's pretty much all we have. But if you spend the one existence you have being concerned about whether or not you're going to be able to eternally propagate it, you're going to miss out on the moments that you do have. And once you realize that the moments that you do have are all you get, they become exponentially more important to invest in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good news is I just started therapy. I had my first session on Friday, and
oh, good. It's going well.
It's been going good so far.
Good.
And
great.
So it's like I'm finally making those steps to get into a better mindset and
I'm so glad.
Be able to live life better emotionally and mentally, for sure.
Great.
And
Allison, I'm glad.
Just try to get relationships started with the family who I don't have contact with and who I want to have contact with, and yeah, so
good. Allison, I'm glad, and I hope you continue on that journey and it just gets healthy and broadens your horizons even more so than it already seems to have started. And thank you very much for calling. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I always appreciate hearing from you. I know you've called in a couple of times, so thank you for calling in again. We like hearing from you, Allison. Let us know, call back again in a little bit and let us know how things are going. All right?
Oh, will do, Shannon. And thanks, Hannah. And you both have a wonderful day. And yeah, I will talk to you again for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good day. All right. We have, oh, I hate hearing that. That is so hard to deal with. It is, like, especially when you first come to the realization. It gets easier, I promise it. Like, it really does. Like, now at this point, I'm less concerned than I am.
When I was struggling with the similar thing in terms of like, because I went to a religious, school and stuff too, and we were told all the time, like, oh, your eternal reward, and you're gonna, get to live, And so when I stopped being religious and had to deal with the fact that no, all I have is here and now, and it's not guaranteed forever. It's very short, but you got to make the best out of it. I kind of had to flip the script mentally from feeling that I had lost something to realizing, for one thing, I'd been promised something that the people who told me, had no right to promise me, considering, doesn't exist as far as we know. And secondly, I needed to switch my thinking from, oh, something's been taken away, but to recognizing I'm very fortunate that I am alive and aware at all. And that's a bit of a, bias in that, of course, someone who is alive and conscious has to exist to think that. But nonetheless, it helped me get through it, recognizing, like, I'm alive now. I can, enjoy life with the people I care about, and that's valuable in and of itself, and I don't need some eternal other thing to validate my existence currently.
Oh, that's okay. You should just interrupt me and talk more. I love hearing what you've got to think, Anna. All right. We have one more call. All right. We got a theist. Let's party. Am I reading this right? Is it Meerkat? Meerkat? Am I pronouncing that wrong? Please help me pronounce your name. I'm really sorry. How do you pronounce your name?
You got it right, meerkat.
Okay, hi. I'm glad. What would you like to talk about today, Meerkat?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, if an atheist doesn't want to become a Christian, why should I bother convincing them that of my God's existence?
Don't save us time. Don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't.
Okay.
The reason that most theists are trying to convince us of the God is because they feel as though they have this imperative that was given to them by that deity, that they need to spread the word, especially when it comes to Christianity, at least, that, they're supposed to go, spread the word to the masses and be disciples so they can save as many people as they can. And that's why proselytization happens. It's not because atheists are like, save me! We're over here just waiting! Why aren't you here already? That's why. So, did you perceive it otherwise?
I mean, it just seems like, well, if that's the case, I mean, a lot of times I hear atheists always asking and saying, where's your evidence and this and that, and you have the burden of proof. And I'm like, well, okay, in that case, then, if you don't want to be a Christian, why should I bother? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense.
If you're talking about them asking you questions, it's not that they're actually trying to convince you to convert them. There's this thing called the Socratic method, where people will, instead of asserting positions, will ask questions of you in order to get you to think about the implications of the answers. So if they're asking you questions about your religion, it's probably not because they're thinking, please convert me. It's because they're trying to get you to think about your own beliefs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In what circumstances are these conversations happening for you, Meerkat? I know you're not just walking out your door in the morning whistling to yourself and then a random stranger walks up to you and says, prove God exists to me, I'm an atheist. These conversations start somehow, right?
Well, they are, in a sense. It's just online.
Okay. Are you asserting that God exists and they show up and say, nuh-uh?
No, I don't do that. It's a belief. That's what theism is about, what we believe, not about what we claim. So it's about sharing my belief, and of course it's justified belief, but nevertheless it's a belief, not a claim or an assertion. I understand it.
So you're proselytizing.
If
and
you
you're
tell
upset at
people
them because they're
what?
asking you questions. Go ahead, Hannah. Sorry.
If you go online and you tell people your belief as genuine as they may be, I believe you believe what you believe. But if you go online and you're like, here's what I believe, that is a claim. You're claiming that that thing is true. I'm not necessarily saying that means you're inviting people to come and argue with you, although on the internet, basically any opinion you have is going to be treated that way. But that is an assertion, and the burden of proof would be on you if you're in a conversation about the validity of different worldviews.
Well, that's an assertion about my belief. Obviously, I'm making a statement. That's an assertion, but it's a statement about, it's a mental acceptance of the claim. It's not making the claim itself. There's two different things. Because I see what you're saying. If it's not a...
Are you saying you believe things that you don't think are true?
No, I do believe, but it's a belief. It's not a claim.
So you think it's true?
You're confusing the two.
So you're just saying, I believe
claims.
This.
Yes, I'm a theist. That's what theism is about, what we believe.
You're right. So you're saying, I believe
it's not
this.
about claims.
But that in and of, let me give you an example. On my Twitch channel, I deal with conspiracy theorists a lot. I deal with flat earthers. So if someone in that community says something and I say, well, I believe the earth is round, I'm making a claim about the shape of the earth inherently if I'm saying I believe something.
No,
Because it's something I think
no,
is
you're
true.
professing a belief.
Right,
saying
but that can also
you're professing a
depending on the
belief.
context, that can
That's
be
not
a
a
claim.
claim.
Okay,
That's an
so
opinion.
right, but your opinion is talking about the truth that you believe, which would be a claim, depending, again, on the context of the situation. Like, I'm not telling you that just making a claim is an invite necessarily for people to come and disagree with you, but it is
Yeah, I agree.
philosophically a claim. It's a belief. It's something that you hold to be true, and therefore, if you want to justify that belief to other people, then it is a claim that needs to be evidenced.
I agree with that. Like, just because you say
Right.
I believe in God, that doesn't mean that people should kick down the door and start fighting with you about it. But if you are saying out loud in a public forum, I believe in God, it's the same as saying it's true that God exists. To me, I am saying it is true. I believe it is true. That is a claim that you're making.
Oh, is that what you believe? You think that's what it is?
Yeah, that's my claim. I believe it. I think it's true. That's why I'm claiming it, because I believe it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't attach that I believe, you just outright say there's a God, yeah, that's a claim. But if I say it's my belief of that
what do you
there's
think
a God,
a claim
then no,
is?
it's not. What?
What do you think a claim is? Because you seem to have a very specific set of circumstance that allow for a claim, and oh my, the pedantry right now. It's just I hate definitional arguments so much. It makes me want to die.
Regardless of the claiminess or not of saying you believe. What's the larger point? I've completely lost the plot.
Claiminess gets the glasses.
Right.
Claiminess got the glasses, Hannah.
As a Christian, I'll just say this. As a Christian, if you genuinely want to be a Christian yourself, and you say, and you asked for evidence and all that to be true, then yes, I would have the burden of proof by default. Because as a Christian, I am obligated to as you said, the Great Commission, to convince people who want to be convinced of the truth.
You're just setting up a scenario when you have to support your claim against a scenario where you don't feel like you have to support your claim. You're in no way demonstrating that it's not a claim. Like you're saying in one scenario, I'm trying to prove that Christianity is true. And in that scenario, it is a claim when I say I believe in God and I can support it. If I am not trying to convince you, it is no longer a claim because I don't want to talk about it. So it means it's not a claim. I'm just saying what I believe. Can you see how you hold the exact same position on the exact same thing in both of those scenarios? The only thing that's different is that in one scenario, you want to have a chit chat about it. And in the other scenario, you don't. But in both scenarios, you're making a claim.
I don't see how because you're again we're talking about
who cares who makes claims. I don't know.
It's all right. Sorry, yeah. I just say I don't see it, but I get I got your answer, and so I don't want to. Thank you so much.
The broader part of the answer is I don't think that just because you believe in something doesn't mean that everybody should kick down the door and try to fight with you. I agree with you on that. I think we disagree on what a claim is. So I will let you go. We have some other people knocking on our door.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. See you. Bye.
No problem, Erica. Have a good day. Thanks. Bye. The only thing I love more than that is when somebody argues about the definition of atheism. I could do that all day. I just love it so goddamn much. It makes me so happy. All right. Ready to talk to Jim, Hannah?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, let's see the claiminess. You make me happy. All right, Jim. Jim, I'm trying to answer your call, but it's not letting me. I think it is now. Hi, Jim. Are you there? I think I got you. You're on the line. What would you like to talk to us about?
Are you guys on there? Can you hear me?
Jim, I can't hear anything that you're saying. You sound like you're standing
Can you
across
hear
the
me?
room
Hello?
through a tunnel from your phone.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
A bit better.
Hello?
Can you hear Hannah?
Yeah.
Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes.
Hey,
Go
I
right ahead.
just wanted to talk about what y'all's opinions are on ancient civilizations and all the effort that went in to build them if there wasn't some type of god or extraterrestrial beings on the planet.
Okay.
Oh, you went off the rails while I took my book out. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So, to be clear, are you implying that you think that ancient civilizations could not have existed the way that they existed if it weren't for either a deity or an extraterrestrial presence?
Yes, I'm saying that why would they put all this effort into making statues of lizard and bird-headed people if there wasn't some kind of behind it?
Okay, can I just ask a genuine question of you, please, before I answer this? And I don't mean any offense by this. Are you trolling? Please. Are you trolling?
Oh, no, I'm being dead-ass serious.
I feel like you're trying not to laugh, Jim.
I feel like it's a good troll if it is.
No,
Jim!
What
Jim.
about, statues with, lizard and bird heads? Why would they go through all this effort to create these if, they didn't mean anything?
I feel like your fake accent is slipping a little bit. Just for the record.
No, my phone is terrible.
Hannah's calling you.
I'm on Android, Metro PCS.
You're almost as good at accents as I am. I'm also from Texas. I sell propane and propane accessories.
My accent isn't slipping. I'm on an Android. Jim, you don't really believe this stuff, though, right? You don't watch Ancient Aliens. Jim.
What do y'all think of
Jim
and the upcoming?
What? What did you?
I think they said.
So aliens exist. Okay. I don't. Are we really gonna follow this? Okay. So aliens.
I mean, there's no other callers right now, so I don't care. I'll entertain this stupid. I'll do it. Sure.
I'm just giving up on life. Fuck it. we're just gonna pretend Jim's serious. Jim, I think they did mean something. They meant something to the ancient civilizations. I have friends who studied ancient Sumerian and Akkadian. They have a channel called Digital Hammurabi. I would very, very strongly recommend you watch some of their work if you are serious. And even if you aren't serious, I would strongly recommend you watch some of their work. They studied Assyriology, and they're fantastic. The reason that those statues had bird heads and stuff is because it was part of that mythology, and that mythology was important to them. The same reason that people put crosses up now. It's not because aliens think crosses are cool. It's because people think that their deity died on a cross and it has some sort of emotional value to them, and they want to transmit that through artistic expression. Since we're taking you seriously.
Have you guys seen the hieroglyphs of the apocalypse at the end of times where it says that a country with an eagle will drop a bomb that will contain bukkake, and it will be worldwide bukkake.
Bukkake?
Oh, we're doing the thing, the new cocky. This is a reference to a YouTuber. Gail is her name.
Stop
it. This is one of the more entertaining trolls I've...
On the troll scale, Hannah gives you maybe 7 stars, I guess.
Out of all the trolls I've ever had, that was pretty good. That wasn't too bad. That was entertaining at least.
Oh my god. Well, he got to be our last call, so good for Jim. I legitimately got excited. I was like, oh, are we going to talk about the ancient Near East? I'm reading this book about reading Sumerian. It's already on my desk. And by the time I got it up, and he was like, and then the aliens came and made the bird heads. And I was like, oh, fuck. I was so excited. I love ancient history. Well, did you have fun, Hannah?
I did have fun.
Good. I'm glad you had fun. We had some good callers. I thought it was very, very interesting. We had more trolls than usual today, though, which is actually, amusing and somewhat satisfying, in like a strange sense. So I'm glad that you're here to experience it with me, and I adore you and everything you do and everything you stand for and who you are. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart, and it's a privilege to be here with you. I've been very excited about it for a very long time.
Oh,
and I promised I would
for having me on.
Thank you for coming on with me. It's very few people that can tolerate being in a room with me on a live stream for more than an hour, and you did it! You did it, Hannah! You did it! Oh, I have like sweat under my armpits. Awkward. I have lights, everybody. Just forgive me. Okay. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for watching The Line. All of the links are in the description for Hannah's channel. And if you're watching on my channel, what are you doing? Don't watch on my channel. Watch on The Line. I'm not always going to be the host. It's not always going to be on my channel, but there's always going to be amazing co-hosts that you can view and watch and listen to who have myriad perspectives that you can listen to and will learn from and enjoy. So go subscribe to The Line and The Line Clips channel. And as always, everyone, help elevate the discourse. Bye.